What is up, Exiles? Today we'll be looking at some of the biggest changes that are coming to combat in Age of War Chapter 3. Right, let's get into this. So one of the biggest changes coming to Age of War Chapter 3 is that we're getting a new subcategory of spear. This comes with its own unique animations, and the original spear is getting a nerf. I'll showcase a nerf first to the original spear. The first heavy attack of the spear is a lot slower now. Not only that, but you actually can't turn during any point, any stage of the attack. You cannot turn with the spear anymore. So this is a big nerf to spear. It's a big nerf to Q-lock with the spear. Because obviously it can't turn to track opponents anymore. It's a big nerf to roll poke meta. So this is Funcom's way of dealing with that issue in getting that reach, and this is going to be a problem because we still have the infinite stamina. We still have the essentially infinite roll, and spear is like one of the best ways to hit people at the end of their rolls because of its reach. So with this change, it's going to be a lot harder to catch people at the end of their rolls, which means that bow is going to be even in an even better position than it is already. For the subcategory of spear, we now have spears with a sweeping effect. Now I'll just go through the animations. These are the heavy attacks: 1 heavy, 2 heavy, 3 heavy, 4 heavy. And then we have the light attacks: 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light. Now ignore the special effects on those light attacks. They've reused some animations from the original spear, and they've still got the colored effects on there, but just know that that last light attack doesn't actually apply bleed. But this last heavy attack here, the sweeping one, that one does apply bleed. It's worth noting that you can still roll out of the heavy attack of the normal spear while the spear is still extended. But with the new sweeping spear, you actually can't roll out of the animation when the spear is still fully extended. You have to wait until it returns to its neutral position completely, and then you can roll. So it's a bit clunky like that. But with the light attack, the first light attack on the sweeping spear, it's actually close to what the old heavy attack on the spear was. So this is probably going to be the meta spear, and you can roll during, like, while the spear is extended, so you're not left in a vulnerable position. The downside to using this is, number one, that there aren't any viable high damage options. There are a couple of legendaries, a couple of uniques, but in terms of what you can farm effectively, there aren't really any good options. And Kingslayer Polearm, this is going to be the go-to craftable, obviously, for a sweeping spear, but it is 10 less damage and 1 less armor pen than the Lemurian Pike, and 20 less damage than the Maudlin. So you are missing out a lot of damage, and not only that, but when you are using this more favorable light attack for roll poke, you're not going to be getting that cripple effect on your attack. So big changes for spears there. This is Funcom's solution to the spear roll poke meta. I think it's unnecessary. I think it's completely unnecessary to make these changes. I think if you just remove Q-lock from official PvP servers, or get rid of the turning on attack, or like they literally could have just removed turn on attack for the spear, or Yeah, just get rid of infinite roll. That would be nice. Bring back Grey Stam, bring back like actually being able to combo, because we've got a whole bunch of new animations here that no one's going to be using. No one's going to be using them for PvP, and probably not for PvE either, because there's no hyper armor anymore. You try to do any combo, any like slower attack, and you're just going to get staggered straight out of it. You're not going to be able to get it off. So it's pretty ridiculous. Also with these spear, like a lot of the animations you can't roll out of. So yeah, the heavy attacks on this spear really leave you in a vulnerable position on all of the attacks. So you are going to be favoring those light attack combos. With the original spear, it does still allow you to turn during the sprint attack, and the sprint attack does still come out at the same speed. So despite the nerfs to the first heavy attack, the sprint attack is still remaining the same, and you can still turn, so Q-lock is still effective on that. As opposed to the original spear, the sweeping spear, it can turn during all of its attacks, and also during its sprint attack is exactly the same. Now, the other big change that's coming in Age of War Chapter 3 is the removal of face-on attack. What I mean by this is, previously, in the live version of the game, if you press a direction and then attack, you'll instantly turn to that direction. Even during a combo, you can instantly snap to whatever direction you want to face. And this is any weapon across the board, instant turn. This has been removed completely, and with that, auto face on attack has also been removed. Now, auto face on attack was an official, a setting on official PvP servers that's enabled, just like Q-lock. And what auto face on attack meant was, if you didn't input any movement commands and you just input an attack, your attack gives no enemies when nearby, would just attack in the direction you're facing. But if you were to input an attack while you're near an enemy, your character would snap to orient towards that person, and so it was essentially an aimbot. With this change, with the removal of face on attack, obviously auto face on attack doesn't work anymore. Your character doesn't turn at all, it doesn't do anything to try and orient towards it, even though the setting still is showing here as being available, being turned on. It doesn't work anymore, so I'm assuming this will eventually be removed from the settings, because it is non-functional on the test live. So the other big thing is that even with weapons like the one-handed sword that have a really quick turnaround compared to something like the mace, which doesn't have a quick turnaround, once you get locked into a combo, it's even more noticeable, because before you could attack one way and then the other really quickly, just snapping around any direction. Especially with the spear, you could go in opposite directions really fast, but as you can see, it's really sluggish, me turning around to attack the other direction. So you're more making use of the turning capabilities of your weapon during the attack animation, rather than snapping at the start of the attack in the direction you want to be striking. So this will definitely affect, like, when you're running away and you want to quickly hit behind you. You actually have to wait for that turnaround animation to happen before you can hit directly behind you. This is going to further incentivize the use of Q-lock, because there's just less advantages to not using it now. If you can't just snap around and hit someone, and you actually have to wait for the turning animation, it's just another reason not to not to free aim, essentially. And aside from that, it's making chasing someone who's rolling around, like hitting them with your combos, it's just making it a little bit slower, a little bit more sluggish. So they definitely need to be working on fixing this infinite stamina. Obviously, the simplest solution would be to revert it, because there was no reason to change it in the first place. But that's the state of things at the moment. And yeah. Aside from that, just a little note: the sprint attacks on the mace, they still don't have any ability to turn during their wind up. For whatever reason, they still haven't added the ability to turn during the mace attacks. And so there you have it. We've got spear nerfs, some huge spear nerfs, a new category of spear, the sweeping spear, less viable options, I guess, in terms of what you can farm as legendaries, and the craftables aren't as good as your standard spears. But the light attack animation is going to be the most favored spear animation. And apart from that, yeah, we've just got the removal of face on attack, auto face on attack. So it's definitely going to change some of the timings of attacks, and you're going to be a lot more reliant on turning during an attack to reorient, rather than just snapping in a direction.